have to quarantine for 14 days. The Netherlands is introducing a national lockdown which will run over Christmas and New Year. Schools, universities and all non-essential shops, bars and restaurants will be closed from today until the 14th of January. There will also be limits on household visitors. Police officers have suffered minor injuries at an anti-vaccine protest in London. Footage posted on social media shows shoving between police and protesters.
In 100 yards, turn right onto Dover Road. Turn right onto Dover Road.
Age of 88. He's been described as a gracious man and a glorious talent after passing away quietly yesterday evening. Lord Rogers also designed the Pompidou Centre in Paris and the Lloyds of London building. The weather cloudy for central and eastern areas with the odd spot of drizzle. Sunshine in the west developing in places, a high of 8 degrees. From Global's newsroom, I'm Amelia Cox.
Are you ready? Coming to Disney Plus this Christmas. This is my chance. From the creators of Moana and Frozen, Disney's Encanto.
Continue for 1.5 miles.
Critics agree it's joyful and triumphant. Let's go! And the perfect festive treat.
I will save the magic. Wait, how do I save the magic?
Get Disney's Encanto plus much more for $7.99 a month. Streaming December 24th on Disney Plus. Subscription required. 18 plus. T's and C's apply.
This is LBC from Global, feeding Britain's conversation with Andrew Castle.
And a very good morning to you. 3 minutes past 7, Sunday morning. It's the 19th of December. Two major stories are really dominating my thoughts and the news agenda as well. The first of those is Omicron and what measures we may be forced to accept. I can't tell you how profoundly affected my neck muscles were when I heard yesterday when Mark Rutter of Holland was talking about closing down his country. My head just slumped because you know exactly what's coming. I feel like I've been anaesthetised and manipulated by this government and by the medical personnel as well. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later on because you just know what's going on, and we are expecting at some point, sometime, to get the news that everything's going to close down. And you're not allowed, by the way, you're not allowed to talk about the effects of a lockdown. You can only talk about Omicron and the National Health Service, and that is a disgrace because there are two sides to that argument, and the other side, people have been pretty much muzzled, and I think it's a disgrace that that is the case. Going to really get stuck into that a little bit later on. Politically last night, what an absolute bombshell. It was dropped by the Mail on Sunday. Now the Minister, this is their Mail on Sunday headlines. Now the Minister for Brexit walks out on Boris. They're talking about the Cabinet Minister and great ally, Lord Frost. He has resigned from the government. His dramatic move, triggered by his growing disillusionment with the direction of Tory policy, has sparked yet another crisis within a beleaguered Downing Street. Lord Frost, who negotiated Britain's departure from the EU as Brexit Minister, is understood to have handed his resignation to the Prime Minister a week ago, but he was persuaded by Mr Johnson to stay in his post until January. But it has leaked out. Somebody couldn't resist. So that's the Mail on Sunday. Sunday Telegraph, obviously Tory paper. Frost quits cabinet as Johnson considers Christmas lockdown. So they combining those two stories into one headline. They talk about chaos at number 10 as Brexit negotiator leaves post over COVID restrictions. That's what they said. The sort of mini list. Javelin wants data to enforce new curbs. That's the way the Telegraph is seeing things this morning. All the papers a bit later on. We turn to Trevor Kavanagh, political columnist at the Sun and the paper's former political editor, of course. Trevor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Andrew.
What does this say, this resignation, about the government of Boris Johnson?
I think it says that the government of Boris Johnson is not for this world. This reminds me of the resignation of Sir Geoffrey Howard, the dying days of Margaret Thatcher's regime. And in some ways, there's an even bigger bombshell that Margaret Thatcher was still a hero within the party. Many MPs, Boris, I think, has used up all his...
In 1/4 mile, keep right to continue towards Tuns Lane, A355.
Very, very important and tough negotiation, but perhaps the only man who capable at this stage of actually carrying them off. It's genuinely devastating to the Brexit programme and will be seen as such by a very large cross-section of the Conservative Party.
Keep right.
several things which he's concerned about, to the point where he's walked away from his job. Disillusioned with Plan B, tick, as far as 100 backbenchers are concerned. Tax hikes, i.e. non-conservative, and a domination of the green agenda. All of these are going to strike a chord with Conservatives up and down the country, aren't they?
Yes, and he has warned about this already in a speech that he made only a few weeks ago, with Boris Johnson actually in the audience, which made him advising this is coming.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road to London, Heathrow Airport.
This resignation of Lord Frost trigger more letters and emails to the 22 committee?
Yes, I believe it will, and as I say, I think that this could be literally the beginning of a very, very rapid end of time. I thought that Boris Johnson would probably linger in office until...
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
all the tough stuff will be done. They'll done the tax rises, they'll done the cutting down to inflation, and probably got Omicron out of the way. So I think this resignation will accelerate that process, and I cannot see how a challenge to his leadership can be avoided within the next few days or weeks.
As early as a few days, Trevor?
Well, probably not before Christmas, but not long into the new year. And one of the reasons, I think, is the imminence of the further tougher measures on Omicron, Plan B+, and
Continue on M4 for 9 miles.
around Lord Frost, who fear that there may be some sort of conspiracy here. Not sure of the Bible these days, but at the same time, I mean, they've known in Downing Street for weeks that this is going to the time. They've had his let that be every season plan until the new year or after Christmas, and he would have kept to that. And I don't think he has told anyone he could possibly have leaked it. So the suspicion that has come from Downing Street and for a purpose, which is that increasingly people are looking very much more at scam, the Omicron figures and projections, and questioning the idea that there are going to be tens, if not hundreds of thousands of admissions to hospital and subsequent deaths. And this comes from a report which has just become clear and just become public from JP Morgan, pointing out that the bed occupancy will be about a third of the peak in January 2021, which will be manageable without further restrictions. Now that basically knocks a hole in the Omicron strategy of Plan B+, and if this resignation of David Frost might completely be being leaked in order to divert attention from that.
I had an MP. Who's the chair of the Defence Select Committee? Too early in the morning. Tobias Elwood. I had Tobias Elwood on this very programme telling me directly that Plan B was a diversionary tactic to get us talking about something other than Downing Street parties. And now you're telling me that this is some part of a possible conspiracy theory as well. Just outline that for me again.
I'm not asserting it, but someone has just told me that Downing Street is very worried about the impact of the report by Professor Graham Medley, which has been discussed on the Spectator website. He's the chairman of the SAGE members, and is also with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And he has found that he has agreed with the report that has been put out by JP Morgan, the finance giant, saying that bed occupancy by COVID-19 patients at the end of January will be 33% of the peak seen in January 2021. This would be manageable without further restrictions. That knocks a hole, a gaping hole, in the entire Plan B+ strategy.
One of the government's chief modelers. Well, that's very interesting, and of course we'll get into that subject a little bit here's a question, and Mervyn King, a very great mind, wants this question asked again and again. In his latest book, he asks it as a first question: what the hell is going on?
And Mervyn King, of course, is a very good friend of David Frost, so maybe they're singing from the same hymn sheet.
Radical Uncertainty is the name of the book, and Mervyn was just saying, just always ask the question, what's going on?
Yes, brilliant man, Mervyn King, and he's asked this question on many occasions, and he's asked it because there's no answer. We don't know what's going on, and Morris seems to be reading it from one problem to another, and those problems have turned into crises, and the biggest crisis of all right now at this moment is the resignation of David Frost.
Good to speak with you, Trevor. Thank you very much indeed. Before you go, could I ask for a name that you think is the most likely to lead the Conservative Party into the next election?
I think the consensus surrounds Rishi Sunak, Chancellor. Nothing certain when it comes to leadership elections. Lots of people pull their hats in, but I think that as we speak, he's the front runner.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. Great speaking with you again. Trevor Cameron is political columnist, of course, at Sun. Always just a brilliant read. Famous former political editor. Martin Howe QC is a barrister specialising in EU law, chair of Lawyers for Britain. It's a pro-Brexit campaign group. Martin Howe, good morning.
Good morning.
Lord Frost going, discuss.
Well, it's a very worrying development because, of course, he is involved at a critical stage in very important negotiations over the Northern Ireland Protocol. The Northern Ireland Protocol is the big unfinished part of Brexit because at the moment, under its provisions, very large numbers of EU laws still apply within Northern Ireland. Now that is unsustainable from the point of view of sovereignty in this country and from democratic principles. It also creates severe practical problems like the availability of medicines, which on the protocol would have to comply with EU rules rather than British rules. So what isn't clear is for now is resigned. Who's going to take over this crucial job? How that is going to be carried out?
What line was Lord Frost taking on this? Presumably there will be some sense of continuity in terms of negotiation. I'd like to know who now is in charge of any negotiations with the EU, if they are still going on at this time close to Christmas. Presumably they are, with such an important issue. What was the direction of travel for Lord Frost on this, and what?
Right. Well, the direction of travel he was going in was to say that in fact there is a provision in the protocol itself called Article 16, which allows the provisions of the protocol to be modified or suspended unilaterally where they're causing severe societal problems or where they're causing the diversion of trade. And it is indeed clear the protocol is causing widespread diversion of trade, and therefore the United Kingdom does have the right to invoke Article 16. And what he was doing was in essence saying, well, this is what we can do, but what we're looking for is a negotiated solution to resolve some of the very serious problems in the protocol. And that includes, in fact, the fact that the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg has direct jurisdiction within Northern Ireland. We have a part of our country where a completely foreign court holds sway, and that simply is unacceptable. That simply is not acceptable.
But Article 16 he was not going to invoke, Lord Frost.
Well,
did he ever say that?
No, he wasn't. No, what happened is his position was that the conditions for Article 16 had been satisfied. In other words, the legal requirements for the UK to invoke it were satisfied, and indeed are satisfied. But what he was doing was trying to negotiate with the European Union an alternative to going down that road.
Yes.
And the problem is it's very important to the
In 2 miles, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
It seems to me that undermining your negotiator in the middle of a negotiation in this way is absolute madness. I don't know why it was done or who did it.
Martin, I must leave it there. Martin Howe, QC, barrister specialising in EU law, chair of lawyers for Britain, Brexit campaign group. 7:17 is the time. Jeffrey Donaldson of the DUP on with me a little bit later on. We'll certainly pick up on what Martin Howe was talking about there. Lord Frost has gone. Where does this leave Boris Johnson? 0345 606 0973. Sage have talked about a circuit breaker after Christmas to help ease infections. Here's the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, speaking yesterday.
Hospital admissions are going up, but also staff absences are going up by massive levels. So I've taken the decision, in consultation with our partners, to declare a major incident.
Are you ready to accept more restrictions in your lives again? How about a lockdown? How will that affect you? We'll really get stuck into that later on. Where is Boris Johnson after Lord Frost resigns? News headlines, Amelia Cox.
The Brexit Minister, Lord Frost, has resigned, warning Boris Johnson against coercive measures to tackle the coronavirus. It's understood tougher COVID restrictions could be introduced in England after Boxing Day. And Germany is the latest European country to ban most travellers from Britain to try to slow the spread of the Omicron variant. The weather cloudy for central and eastern areas with the odd spot of drizzle. Sunshine in the west developing in places, a high of 8 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. The strike on the Underground is officially over, but there's still no service as a result on the Central Line and also minor delays on the Victoria Line. Lots of stations on the Underground are closed, but that's because of a shortage of staff, including Temple, Stepney Green and Southwark on the Jubilee Line.
In a 1/4 mile, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
Between Bedford Road and the Railway Bridge. On Tower Bridge, there are restrictions in both directions, and that's following an accident.
Small break on Sunday, coming up at 10, live from Westminster, LBC.
Exit at junction 3.
Something different to give my sister. Maybe a necklace that's not just run.
In a 1/4 mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the 4th exit onto the Parkway, A312.
Let's go shop small this festive season with American Express. Eligible cards, enrollment required, terms apply.
This festive season, travel safely with Avanti West Coast. With mandatory face coverings for those who aren't exempt, and trains that are as clean as a whistle, you can rest easy when you travel with us. All you have to do is sit back and relax as you glide past all that holiday traffic. Find out more at avantiwestcoast.co.uk. Avanti West Coast. Travel with confidence.
The Wi-Fi's down. Wi-Fi down.
This is broadband rage. It happens when your internet drops out and the red mist descends. Why suffer like this? Get the UK's first unbreakable Wi-Fi. Only BT's new hybrid home broadband is backed up by EE's mobile network. One day all broadband will be like this.
4G coverage required. 4G connection takes up to 175 seconds. Verify bt.com/verifyhybrid.
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
No bank account. No bank account. No job. No job. No home. No home. No address. No address.
Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
No job. No job. No home. It's time to break the vicious circle. We're working with charities like Shelter to provide a bank account for people who are homeless. Search HSBC UK no fixed address.
Omicron COVID-19 is spreading fast. Every adult in the country now needs to get a COVID-19 booster vaccine because 2 doses do not give you enough protection against catching Omicron. Boosters give you the best possible protection
exit, and Lord Frost, I believe, Eamon, is what's on your mind. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Andrew. I'm just delighted he's gone. I think he was very, very, very short in a lot of aspects, particularly, you know, the protocol negotiations. I'm for the protocol. I think it offers us here in Northern Ireland a world of opportunities. You'll have Jeffrey Donaldson on and yet a previous speaker telling you about all the problems, but I'm living here and I'm living on the ground, and I see the American companies that want to come here and invest, and they already are doing it, believe it or not, that see access to the UK market and access to the single market as a huge benefit of locating here. It's not talked about, and I'll tell you why it's not talked about. If Northern Ireland still has access to the single...
In a quarter of a mile at Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit and stay on the Parkway A312.
Well, I mean, it says you shouldn't have left the European Union because you've
and Lord Frost has been on the record saying that things are starting to go too well and we need to get this stopped. So he has been on the record of saying that. So that's where I come from, living here in Northern Ireland. I think it's absolutely disgraceful that they're prepared to put the well-being, the future of my children at risk just over, you know, pure politics. And, you know, given...
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
I've been lived through, you know, 30, 40 years of trouble.
Continue on A312 for 1.5 miles.
A foreign court got jurisdiction over you. You see yourself more European than British?
Look, Andrew, you'll have Jeffrey Donaldson on. He represents a party that's polling at 12%, and he talked very politely and very nicely, and you give him, obviously, he's sir, and you give him all the due deference that he will.
I'm not sure, Eamon. I never know.
Well, you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, of course I will. I will listen to what he has to say.
The majority of people in Northern Ireland voted to remain. That's the fact. We, through, you know, history, are in a slightly different position to the rest. Just fortunately, I can carry an Irish passport and still have all the benefits of you know, being a EU citizen. But the long and short of it is, they don't want the protocol to work for Northern Ireland because it will show England.
So you're just Eamon, lastly, you're seeing companies, you say, who want to locate to Northern Ireland because of access to the single market, and you want that to continue, so you're glad that Lord Frost has gone.
Yeah, I'll tell you, your listeners now, there's a huge company called Almac that's based here. They just announced 3,000 new jobs.
Right.
And during that announcement, they called it the Almac bounce. They quoted the advantages that they currently have, and number one was the access to both markets. Now you can ask Jeffrey about that. It's called they called it the Almac bounce, or the Almac advantage.
Almac bounce. Who are Almac?
They're a huge pharmaceutical company that were set up by a man here 50 years ago, and they employ about 2,000, but they're adding 3,000 to the workforce. But the protocol and what they can do working from this part of Britain was a huge part of the decision. Jeffrey will probably not tell you about it, or he'll try and talk around it, but go online and look up Almac and just there's 3,000 jobs now.
All the best to you and the family. How old are the kids?
All my boys are 25, 21, 16, so they're just coming into the labour market this deal. And this place has changed beyond recognition.
I must leave it there, Eamon. Thank you very much indeed. 7:25. I want to talk about Omicron. A major incident has been declared in London by Sadiq Khan. More than 10,000 new Omicron cases have been confirmed in the UK. The variant is apparently surging across the country. Those in hospital wouldn't suggest a great surge at the moment, but the modelling suggests, and the forecasts, whatever they are, seem doom-laden. London Mayor Sadiq Khan saying this major incident in the capital showed how serious things are. Holland closed. Germany tightening restrictions. Dr. Raghib Ali is a senior clinical epidemiologist at Cambridge University and a consultant of acute medicine at Oxford University Hospitals. Dr. Ali, good morning.
Good morning.
I was profoundly depressed yesterday, and have been for quite some time, about the possibility of being locked down. It appears whatever the hell Plan C is going to be is coming, restricting all of our lives. Is it necessary?
That's a very difficult question to answer right now. I think I want to make a couple of points. And the first is, I understand people have maybe two concerns. One is, as you have described, of going back into lockdown. But the other, of course, is fear of catching and becoming ill with Omicron itself. And I think it's important to address that as well. So one point is that your personal risk this year is much lower than it was last year because the vast majority of people, particularly those at high risk, have had been vaccinated, and most of the vast majority, in fact, have had 3 doses as well. Now, so your personal risk is much lower than it was last year. I mean, the concern is that if
In a quarter of a mile, turn right onto Roslin Avenue.
need hospital care, then that could put unsustainable pressure on the NHS, and that's why all this talk about further restrictions and Plan C. But the key piece of information that we still don't have is what proportion of Omicron cases are ending up in hospital. And the second thing is how effective are the vaccines.
Turn right onto Roslin Avenue, then you will arrive at your destination.
And whether we need further measures or not.
Right, so we turn to whatever information we can get, and we have to do it as quickly as we possibly can, Dr. Ali, isn't that the case? And when I hear the words of Dr. Angelique Coetzee, the chair of the South African Medical Association, who first alerted the world to Omicron last month, she wrote on Tuesday that she was astonished by the extraordinary worldwide reaction to the variant. She said the symptoms presenting in those with
You have
Omicron
arrived.
are very mild compared to those we see